Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration. It's a weekly show that goes out over YouTube and as a podcast over all of the major channels. And each week I get to sit with an inspiring person and listen to their story and share it with all of you. This week is no different. I'm here with Mariah Idrissi. Welcome.
Thank you.
As usual, I'll give Mariah a brief introduction because she's far too modest to speak about her achievements as I will. So Mariah is a model, a speaker, a public figure, and the model agency that she's with at the moment is Insanity. Sounds like an intriguing thing.
Insanity group, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A speaker, and I'm talking like a proper speaker, TEDx in 2016. We'll talk about that a bit more. Does some work with Super Network, which is a creative agency of sorts that does a really wide variety of things, and an ambassador for Islamic Relief UK, which is a great institution doing many things around alleviating suffering, hunger, illiteracy, disease, and many other things beside that. Mariah gained prominence as the first, I guess, Muslim hijab-wearing model in an H&M commercial called Close the Loop back in 2015. And it was more than just an appearance. I think what Maria's done since then is really become a spokesperson and a face for modern British life and modern British fashion, and a real icon in that respect. She was scouted, we'll talk about this story, at a shopping centre. I won't give too much away, but she's had appearances in Elle magazine, Marie Claire, Teen Vogue, and many, many others, too numerous to mention. The New York Times wrote an article on Mariah and said that the story of Mariah has prompted a discussion about women who are reclaiming the headscarf as a form of stylish self-expression. I think you can see that already in the image here for those of you who are watching on YouTube. And she's got some spectacular hidden talents that we might be able to encourage her to do around accents.
Well, that was a surprise.
If you're up for that. Well, yeah. So welcome, Mariah.
Thank you.
It's an impressive range of things that you've achieved in a very short period of time and an awfully long runway ahead, I'm sure.
Yes, I like that.
It's the runway ahead. So let's start by grounding in history here. You were born and brought up in London.
Yep.
Mum.
Pakistani.
Dad.
Moroccan. So mixed.
An incredible, flavourful mixed race family, and went to school, I guess, in London.
Yes, went to school in the UK. I've never lived abroad, so I've travelled a lot, but I've always come back home.
Well, anyone who follows Mariah on Instagram will know that you're an intrepid traveller. Every time I see you, you're standing in a different country these days, it seems. So that
it keeps me sane. Yeah.
Keeps you sane. So tell me how the modelling thing came about.
Okay, so I was scouted in your local shopping centre, which is Shepherd's Bush, Westfields, and at that time I was actually working part-time managing a children's shop, and a woman called Coralie, she's got
Were you working in the Westfield?
Yeah, it was a shop
right.
called Trotters. It's a children's shop.
Yeah,
you know Trotters, yeah. So I was there, and a woman called Coralie, so she has her own casting agency, just said, "Hey, can I take a picture of you? You look really cool." And I was like, "Okay, what for?"
That's a bit weird.
Yeah, Coralie's so cool. It's so weird because after that we have so many mutual friends that we just discovered recently, and so she took a picture of me for her roster, and then a few weeks later she gives me a call and says, "Hey, H&M want to use you for a campaign." And it's funny because my background really is in film, so when she said casting agent, initially I didn't ask that many questions at the time, so I just assumed it was like film casting for extras and stuff like that. And when she said H&M, I was almost like disappointed. I was like, oh, it's fashion. I thought I was going to be in a movie, okay. And then I went to do it anyway. I thought nothing of it. I genuinely thought I'm going to be in this video for a couple seconds. No one's going to recognize me or care. But then they also took editorial shots of me. And I think it was that went more viral than anything, because it was the first time you've ever seen like a mainstream fashion logo on a picture with a woman in a hijab. So it just blew up. My Instagram at the time was private. I was not really on social media at all. I just had to make it unprivate because I was getting all these friend requests.
Right.
And within like a few weeks, just went from like 200 to 20,000 followers, and I had all these interviews coming through, and I didn't understand. I was like, what is the big deal?
What is going on here?
So my mom Googles my name, and then we see New York Times and all these other publications writing about the world's first hijab wearing model. And I was like, no, this must be it.
Surely not.
Yeah, I was like, it's 2015. I was like, it's insane. And because I wear a hijab, so I'm conscious of other women who wear a hijab, and I'm familiar with some of them online, so I didn't see it as a big deal. But then when I thought about it, I was like, actually, yeah, I've never seen a woman in anything really mainstream wearing a hijab. And I just milked it from there.
Actually, the H&M commercial itself, I've seen it is about 2 seconds, right? It's certainly no longer than that.
2 seconds. Yeah, we all had like our little 2 seconds. I didn't
little segments.
expect.
You mentioned film, so I'm intrigued to follow up on that. Tell me about that. What's the film background? You thought it was film, why?
So I used to do drama. I went to drama school. I wanted to be an actress growing up. And that was around the time that I wasn't wearing a headscarf. So for me, the world was my oyster. But then when I hit about 17, 18, and I chose to wear the hijab, I realized, well, that's my career done, because I can't imagine Wonder Woman wearing a hijab outfit or a covered up outfit.
Was that the inspiration? It was Wonder Woman that you had?
No, just threw it out there. So I went to uni because having cultural parents, you have to go to university. So I did the whole uni thing, and I studied English and history because I thought, well, if I'm not gonna choose drama, because I might not be able to do many roles, I still want to pass uni, so let me do something that I can still use in film. So I thought screenwriting, producing, something around that area. I wasn't 100% sure, I just knew, like, this is the industry I want to be in. Yeah. But then as soon as I graduated, I got scouted, and I was like, oh, well, looks like I'm in fashion.
Well, my spider sense tells me there's something in your future on this, so we'll come back to that. And after the H&M commercial, everything sort of blows up, you get these friend requests, you're in demand as a speaker.
Yeah.
What led you on the path to ultimately speaking at TEDx? Because that's a big deal, right? That was at the O2.
Yeah, it was
in London.
It was a really big TEDx as well. It was actually it was a New York team that organised it, and that was only a couple months after the H&M thing actually happened. So I think because they saw a lot of interviews I was doing, I was on the news a lot and TV shows. So I think they picked up from there, like, let's get her on as a speaker to tell her story in longer than like a 30-second segment.
How long was the talk?
It's about 8 minutes.
8 minutes,
yeah. They normally have it around.
I will link it below. If you haven't watched it, I really encourage you to watch it. It's amusing, heartfelt, and really insightful. And what was your key message in it?
The key message was, the title's called Changing the Face of Fashion. So it was really around diversity, and even though my kind of identity in fashion is prominently with the hijab, but it's not just about the hijab, it's just diversity as a whole. And I do feel that in the last 5 years, I'd say we have seen a real surge in just diversity and representation, not just in fashion but film and in all types of advertising.
It's interesting because you were often described as the face of modest fashion.
Yeah.
Is that something that resonates with you? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I'm A-face. There's plenty of women, that wear a hijab that are doing their thing as well. Modest fashion, it's like a new term. I feel like it wasn't something I grew up, really hearing as something. I think it's a more palatable way of saying like the hijab or the khimar, which is the Arabic word for like a head covering, just because when you call something a hijab, so we were talking about this earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean an actual piece of material on your head. It's more of a concept. So the hijab is more of a barrier, and that applies to men and women, so just to protect you from sinning ultimately. So it's not just within relations between men and women, it could be anything. It could be having that that modesty, that kind of barrier between you and food, between excessive buying, excessive anything. So yeah, I think modest fashion just applies to women who just choose to cover up more than normal.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just for Muslim women. There are so many Jewish women, Christian women, so many women of different backgrounds who you know, want to cover their bodies.
I must say, when I saw the term, I thought, modest fashion, isn't it just fashion? Because fashion is so individual, and you know, it's an expression in a way of your identity and your style and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, it is. I think now it's become just fashion because modest fashion is trending. You know, I think the reason why it was given that title was because, generally speaking, there wasn't that many options for women who choose to cover up their body when it's summertime and everything becomes, you know, a lot more shorter and more exposed. We felt left out. It's like, okay, so we don't have many options shopping. You know, can't you just make the dress a bit longer? You know, can't you add sleeves? So there was like a demand for just more options for us that choose to cover our bodies.
Yeah.
And now it is the trend for everyone. You know, when you look at runways and stuff, it's nothing to do with the hijab or religion. It's just that's the trend.
That's the mode. Yeah. I've met you a couple of times. Lucky me. And I've seen you on Instagram a lot. And I have to say, every time I see you, you've got a different headscarf, a different hijab. So how many do you own? And talk to me about your fashion sense. How do you think about this as an expression of you?
I've got loads. I've got a couple boxes.
Couple of boxes,
quite a few hijabs. It's a part of it's just a part of my identity now as well. Part of the branding and everything. Even though it's not the core thing to me, it's just a part of me. But because it's on my head, you know, it gets a lot of attention because it's so obvious.
I'm sure designers flock to you and say, "Hey, would you mind wearing one of mine?" Is that true or no?
Yeah. There are definitely designers that, you know, send clothes, headscarves, all sorts. Yeah. And
how about the abaya? You're obviously not wearing an abaya today. Talk to us about the abaya, what it is, and how you think about that as part of the modern fashion or modest fashion.
So the abaya is more cultural than religious. It's mostly worn in the Middle East. You've been in Saudi Arabia for a while, so you've seen them everywhere. I did go through a phase where, and again that could be to do with the fact that there wasn't as many options, again growing up wearing a hijab, so it was just a hijab, like head covering and an abaya, but now, you know, there's different ways of styling yourself, so I do still wear an abaya, but not as often. Also it's not as practical. You know, I'm like trainers, tracksuit kind of girl.
It's very long.
From A to B quickly, so sometimes like, oh no, I'm tripping over myself.
Oh goodness, yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Look, I'm interested in sort of moving past the hijab and understanding more who you are, and you know, how fashion is for you as a concept. How is it as an expression of your identity? Talk to me about how you feel fashion plays, or what role fashion plays in modern British society or any society.
I think fashion throughout history has always played a role. You know, fashion has distinguished rich and poor people, you know, different cultures, different religious beliefs. So fashion's been a part of us as long as humans have been on earth. I think now what I want to use combining fashion and film is to create like a docu-series where I show how fashion connects us all. Traveling often, you know, I have the opportunity to see so many different types of cultures and backgrounds, and there are so much common ground when it comes to the way that we dress. So if you look at India and you look at Africa, when I go to rural villages, I'm like, except for the prints being different, it's ultimately the same thing, the way women cover themselves, the way they dress. So that's something I really want to explore, how fashion actually can unite us in a way where we actually have more in common than we do different. So
although these are very different places and very different cultures, in some way there's a golden thread, so to speak, that connects us.
That connects us, definitely. Like the meaning, so it's different. So in Sri Lanka, for example, you know, with their saris, certain prints and materials represent certain things. The same with West Africa, certain head wraps that they wear, or just certain prints represent different things and have different meanings.
The tartan in Scotland as well.
Exactly, in Scotland, even within Europe, it's all around everywhere in the world. So how fashion really is deeper than just just fashion, you know.
That sounds like a really interesting program, docuseries.
Yeah.
You call it docuseries?
Like a docu-series, yeah. That's
Yeah. So where are you in that project?
Nowhere. I just...
Well, you've just announced it.
Well,
so,
yeah, if anyone wants to...
if somebody wants to come on board and fund that or be part of that, how do they do that?
Well, get in touch with me. Well, I can leave my email to you, and then that'll be good. It's just I've got like a little black book of all these ideas. That's definitely one of the top ones on my agenda.
Well, I won't put your email below, but I'll put I'll put your social handles.
Oh yeah,
below,
I forgot. Yeah, this mic. Hey, Maria, I want to marry you. The amount of emails I've had my manager receive emails saying, Maria, you've got another proposal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Funny,
There was a little hint of an accent that just came out there before. This is one thing that is absolutely hilarious about your TED Talk. You were talking about your father, and can you tell that story?
Yeah, so like with all the interviews that I was doing initially when the H&M campaign just came out, there was a lot of unusual questions like, you know, are you going to join ISIS? Or not, are you going to join ISIS, but have you got any affiliation? Can your dad see your hair? You know, certain things. Do you wear how do you shower, covering your head? Stupid things, absolutely ridiculous things. And I think, I did some impersonations of my dad as well. Do you know what's funny? I don't even remember actually what he said. You probably...
I think he was quizzing you. You were doing all of these interviews on ITV or BBC, and he was asking you why you weren't mentioning the countries and your uncle. Do you remember the story?
So he was like, you know, Maria, when you do this interview, make sure you remember you're from Britain. You have to put Britain up. You're talking about everywhere. You don't speak about Britain. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna definitely make sure that I do promote the fact that as a country, you know, a lot of questions were asked around growing up and being a woman of colour and wearing a hijab. And that is one thing I've always prided myself on, you know, being British, is that I've never really experienced any like Islamophobia personally. It exists, definitely. Racism exists in the UK as well, definitely. But I just personally, growing up in London, haven't really experienced it. And I think it's one of the most fortunate things about living here. You know, it's so diverse and multicultural.
Yeah, and that's it's very much the part of modern Britain. You do a pretty mean American accent as well. You remember that? Yeah,
I do. So you know, it's a very Valley girl, but everyone gets it straight away. They know.
You gotta do. Can you do a New Zealand accent?
Can you do a New Zealand accent?
Oh, my God, that's spooky.
Really? I just had to...
Oh. Jeez, is it that simple? Oh.
No, it's not. It's actually not. No.
You should got to tone it down and sound somewhat guttural and uneducated. So, did a good job. That's really good.
I'm gonna watch more videos of just like on YouTube, like the whole New Zealand accent tag or whatever.
Do you know any New Zealand actors?
I don't actually know. Do you know any?
Personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few. Sam Neill.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch him.
He's a Kiwi.
I don't know. Yeah, he's a Kiwi. I remember my teacher in
Flight of the Conchords. Have you seen Flight of the Conchords?
No, but I know, but I haven't watched it, no.
Good, watch it.
Okay, I'm going to watch that.
Top tip, Flight of the Conchords.
I'm proud to say that I knew the difference between an Australian and a New Zealand accent when I first met you. What is the difference? I think Australian accents are more thicker.
Yeah.
Unless you're from, what's that area? Begins with A, in Australia.
Adelaide?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like their accent's a bit different. I was told.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Gosh, where were we? We were talking about your idea for a docu-series. So a wonderful concept, actually. So if anyone's interested in funding, I'll put the links below to Maria's social handles.
I will look out for my DMs.
Look out for your DMs, indeed. Mm-hmm. Tell me what a month in the life of Maria looks like. You are all over the place the whole time. So maybe let's take the last 4 weeks. Where have you been? What have you been doing?
Wow, the last 4 weeks has been a good time actually. It's been a bit exciting. So I went, just before I was away in Somalia, Kenya, and a day in Ethiopia. So that was like 10 days in the last couple of weeks. And just before that I was in Zanzibar. So I was rocking it with my Swahilis.
Yeah, definitely.
Picked up quite a bit of the language. It's been a very busy time, especially around in Africa. And it's been producing like charity marketing content.
Right.
So
these are modelling jobs, but there's sometimes ambassadorial things, or
yeah. So
or
this actually
roles.
wasn't modelling at all. This was literally for me to present and produce essentially like documentaries, but it's really something that they can use as charities to obviously just promote the charity. So the one that was most recent that I went to, the Somalia and Kenya one, a friend of mine works for it's a small charity, and for them to have sent a production company out to Somalia, and there's no travel insurance, so like I don't even know if most people would do it, most companies would do it, and they need to grow obviously their charity, their business, and that's the problem, because they haven't had the resources to do that. So she asked me, would you be happy to go? And she gave me obviously the whole list of warnings and stuff. And I was like, this is an amazing experience. I grew up with Somalians, so like this is great, you know. Got together a small little team, it was 3 of us, and we're all clearly adventurous because everyone's like, yeah, let's go. And we just filmed like a little mini doc, and we're going to cut it into an advert as well for them.
Oh, wicked.
So I'm really happy that, because most people, I did ask a lot of people who would be willing to come just to put it out there, and I understand, you know, if people have got jobs and other responsibilities, but because it's unpaid,
pesky jobs.
Yeah, because it's unpaid, I know that's a lot of the reason why people want to do it. So I'm really grateful that we came together, because it's for a good cause, you know.
Most surprising experience while you were out there, or funny experience?
Oh, there was quite a few. I mean, Kenya, we were in the middle of a flood, which really? Didn't expect that to happen in Kenya. We got stuck in a flood. I don't know how the car became like a Batmobile, because it just went through the water was like nearly almost up to people's knees.
Were you in Nairobi or outside?
In Mombasa.
Mombasa.
So that was crazy. We woke up 6 a.m. We didn't get back till like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Such a long day. And then Somalia was interesting because we had 2 different people that were taking us around. One guy was very much real about Somalia. It wasn't so optimistic, he was more realistic, and
the good, the bad and the ugly.
Yeah. Mostly bad and the ugly. So we were like, oh my god, like what have we just stepped into, you know? And then the other guy who took us around was really optimistic. He's actually from the UK, he's moved back to Somalia with his family. He's like, honestly, things are only getting better. So it was great to have those 2 perspectives, but it was funny because one evening when we were with the optimistic guy, we were just having our coffee, similar to this, in the evening, sitting on the balcony, and then we just heard boom. And I was like, was that a bomb? And he was like, don't worry. And then he just had boom, 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 boom. And I was like, was that gunshots? He was like, yeah. And I was like, it's far away, we're okay. So we literally, you adapt so quickly. And it's, you know,
that would be rather disconcerting, I imagine.
Yeah, but it's so weird how quickly we adapted, because I think if that was on the first night, we would have been, you know, panicking.
Yeah, sure.
Especially because the first guy was telling us, oh yeah, every couple of days something, you know, blows up. But then by the 4th day, you become like the locals. It's amazing how as humans we adapt. So we were kind of like, it's far away. Yeah, it's all right.
Gosh.
My coffee's great, you know.
And some of the work that you're doing with Islamic Relief, tell me about that organisation and what drives you there.
So Islamic Relief, I think we got in touch about last year for a campaign called Honour Her, and that campaign was focused on just changing the kind of opinions on how Muslim women are viewed as just being constantly forced into marriages, oppressed, you know, FGM, so all these areas that are often associated with like honouring, like honour killing. So it was all about ending gender-based violence. So they did this really cool campaign where they got like an imam, you know, myself and a few other people to just say these are cultural issues, not Islamic issues, because they're always connected to our religion.
Yeah.
And I went to Niger with them in December 2018. So 18, yeah.
A year ago,
yeah, it should have. I think it's, oh my god, my mind, I was like 17, 18.
Yeah.
So went there. That was my first like real charity, you know, visit, because I'd been working with them for the whole year, and I almost felt like I physically need to see what's going on, because people are obviously asking me like, yo, Maria, do they really give the money? You know, what's going on with these huge charities? People are always concerned about where their money's going. So I felt like it's a responsibility. I need to physically be able to speak confidently and say, no, I can see the work they're doing with my own eyes, and I'm happy. Yeah.
Amazing.
So they're doing amazing work. Yeah.
Incredible. Look, there's probably people watching this who are thinking about their future move after school or university, maybe doing their first pivot, maybe going through a discovery of their own identity.
Yeah.
In closing, any tips or advice you'd leave us with based on your journey?
I would say stop chasing, start building. So yeah, a lot of us, I feel, are trying to, it's almost back to front, like we're trying to chase something for them to build it for us, when we have tools and resources, especially living in the West, to do a lot of things ourselves and collaborate more. I'd say network. A lot of the things that I've been able to achieve is just through people I know, and talking about what I want to do. So just having a very clear idea of what it is you want to do, and being able to relate that to people, so that you can have support in making it happen.
It's up to us, and just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, I hate that phrase. It's like, just do it, because I know for so many people it's difficult. But if you I always connected from a young age, like what I'm good at and what I like doing, and that kind of, because there's a lot of things that I really enjoy doing that I was rubbish at, and a lot of things that I'm really good at but I don't enjoy doing. So I just had to find what my purpose was. It was just connecting the two, and then saying, cool, this is what I feel I need to do.
Well, I think that's absolutely timeless advice that's relevant for all of us, myself included.
Thank you.
Maria, you're a real inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you for being such a great icon for modern Britain, and for everything that you're doing. You're really inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Phil. Thank you.